Hi, Irene here. The layout I have for you today is based on a challenge that was given to us by the creative design team. And the challenge was to scrapbook a milestone moment in your life using this sketch as your guide for your layout. If you look at the sketch real quick, it's pretty simple. We have a base paper, we have a couple of strips of paper, we have several embellishments, and a title. The layout holds 6 photos. I'm going to actually do 7, and I'll show you how I do that once we get to that point. Let me bring in my pictures, and then I will share with you my milestone. So my milestone memory here is when our youngest Blake moved into college back about 2018, I believe it was. And essentially, this is a double milestone because with Blake moving into college, that made my husband and I basically empty nesters. So we had a couple of lifestyle changes there at the time. But he did go to CSUN, which is CSU Northridge, and that is in California. And you can see that they are the Matadors, and obviously their school colors are red, black, and white. So let me clear out these photos real quick. Let me bring in some papers and show you what I started with paper-wise and then what I ended up with and why. Pull those out. Going to be working on a base of Stampin' Up's white Willow cardstock, which is quite the challenge for me because I have a hard time with a lot of white space. So I think I have an idea of how to make it not so stark white once we get to that point. But like I said, black, red, and white is the school colors. Definitely want to use those colors. But when I lay these colors down, I just think the contrast is just way, way, way too strong. I could flip it over and soften up the colors. These are the two-tone cardstocks from Stampin' Up, but it just felt really basic, and I didn't really care for that. So let me bring in a couple of other pieces of paper and show you what I tried. So I was thinking definitely the black on top and then the red on bottom. So I have this piece of pin dot paper, which I thought I could swap out for the black and see if we like that a little bit better, which was okay, but still for me it was just way too stark. And then I had this piece of paper, which is from the Most Adored paper pack, which unfortunately is no longer available. But if you're looking to replicate this, any plaid would work. And what I like about this plaid paper is that you have this kind of light red, maybe pinkish stripe. You have the white, and I think it really softens up the starkness of just straight red and black. But then I was thinking, I really, really like the Botanical Textures paper pack that had just been recently released as an online exclusive with Stampin' Up. And this is a paper pack of black and white and gray. It's obviously botanicals. So we have leaves on one side. Sorry, I have them mixed up. So you have your black and white leaves, which are really, really pretty. And there we go. And then on the opposite side, you're going to have these washes of color. So they're very watercolory to me. So what I was thinking is what I'd like to use, I think, are these two here. So let me just pull these ones out for a moment. And I was thinking we'll swap out the blacks and add this wash here. And I just think it's softer, even though it's still black and white, maybe because there's the gray in it. I'm not quite sure, but I just really like the way that looks better. Then I thought, remember we had 2 stripes. I want to bring in a third color. I want to bring in that red. And I think I'm just going to make it a very small, thin stripe and then use the botanicals down below. And I think that is really going to look really, really good. I'm going to add a little bit of splatter, I think, up here at the top and bottom where we have this extra white space. And then our title, embellishments. I think it's going to go really, really quick. Let me clear this all out and cut down some paper, and I will be right back. I have cut down all of the papers. Let me bring in the sketch real quick so we can take a quick look at it. And like I said, I wanted to use this grayish black here, which is represented by B. And then I am going to be bringing in the red that's going to go between the B and C just to kind of break it up. I did ink up all my edges of my paper, and I just use this Stays On jet black ink and just one of these Tim Holtz blending tools. You can buy the base, and then the foams are just replaceable as you go along. And there we go, didn't want that to fall. So I wanted to line this up like this. I might just overlap that just a bit because I really only want a small piece. And then I was thinking I'd like to bring in this trim. It's kind of like a trim piece here on top that kind of just finishes it up. I'm probably going to scooch it underneath and just have a little bit sticking out. And I think that that will look good. I'm going to slide it down a little. I'm going to put my title up there. And then on the right side, we're just going to bring it more across. We will line it up better as when it's time to adhere everything down. But that one is shorter. This one will slide underneath like that. So I cut that down the same size as the black paper. And then this one will go underneath again, the same length. So thinking that looks pretty good. And let me bring in my pictures so we can lay those down. So like I said, I am going to be doing 7 photos instead of 6. And what I'm going to do is, if I'm going to be using a flip flap. If you are not familiar with flip flaps, I will share those with you once we start adhering our pictures down. But essentially what it will be is a little pocket, and you're going to put 2 pictures in, or maybe you're journaling, and you flip it up and you can have a picture underneath. I'm going to put my journaling under that, and your flip flap can adhere either here to your paper, to your page, or what if you put your layout in a page protector, you can actually adhere it to the top of your page protector, so it's interactive from the outside. If you attach it to your layout, you will have to cut a slit in your page protector just to feed it through. So I was thinking I'm going to put this one over here. Initially this was a 4x6, but I did cut that down because there was a lot of dead space in that picture and I didn't need it there. I'm going to put my 2 4x6s there. And then, I think I'm going to swap this one out. I'd like to have this one here. And I think the Matador's there. And they had their door. This was the front of their door, and they had everybody's name listed on there. Thinking putting this up here because it's kind of a lighter photo. Doesn't have as much weight. And then this one down here, and his made bed. Probably the only time it was made in the entire 4 years he was in college. Room was super simple. Didn't want any decorations. Any great shelves there you could put stuff on. Nothing. Just super, super simple. So this is what I'm thinking I want it to look like. So let me bring in some of my embellishments. I'm not going to adhere anything down yet because, like I said, I want to do some splattering up here and on the bottom. And I think it'll be easier if I just remove everything, do my splattering, and then adhere everything down. So let me share with you my embellishments. I have this little dish here full of embellishments. And Blake went to school. His major was CTVA, which is Cinema and Television Arts. So I have a bunch of like icons for movies and for film. So I cut out all of these little film strips, and these I did all on my Cricut basically. Have a few little sayings, that's a wrap. Got this little director's chair with his name on it. So our sketch did give us a couple of placements for our clusters. I want to do 3. It only had 2, but they had the tags. Let me pick one of each, and they had 3 of them sticking out from down here. So I did a couple of them in the same size. So the botanical and the plaid are the same size tag, and then the black I did smaller. And this is just a tag set from my stash. And what I like about this tag, if you can see, I don't know if I can bring it in close enough, but it has this cute little stitch detail all the way around. I like them. I use them a lot. I think I might have bought them on Amazon. I've had them for a while. I'm not positive. If I find them on Amazon, I will definitely link them in my description. But any tag will truly work. So I'm going to put, again, 3 of them over here. So we have the 2 pattern and the black. And then lastly, I'm going to stick 2 of them down here under this photo coming out on the side. And then I'm going to just start adding my my little decorations, my movie camera. I was thinking that that could go right here. Film strips. I knew I wanted to have a lot of those because I think that, you know, that's totally representative. So tuck a couple of those in down there. Director's chair. That can come right over here. Oops. Right there. And let's see what else we have. Oh, what I was thinking, like I said, I have a couple of just little sayings I made up on the computer. And then I cut them out in just like little journaling strips almost. So you know how they say lights, camera, action. I thought that would be kind of cute. I'm going to stick those coming out of my camera down here. Let's see, get there. Lights, camera, action. And then up here on the top, I have this really fun movie camera. I'm not quite exactly sure how I'm going to make it fit in, but I really like it. It's got a couple of pieces, so I will have to put it together, and then we will adhere it down. And then I have my title, which I'll show you in just a second. Let me put a couple of these film strips back here. And I thought maybe this little saying here, "That's a wrap." I think that was appropriate. Those are my little extra pieces from my camera I will put together. I'm going to move this to the side and move my film strips out for right now. I made a megaphone, sea sun. All of these were all cut out on my Cricut. So I'm going to put that up here. Might slide this up just a little higher. But once everything has been splatted, we will adhere it down, and it'll make more sense. I think I need to move everything up just a little bit. So my title here is going to be Move-In Day. So that's pretty simple. And I wanted to use that black trim, that little piece of black trim there. I thought that would be a nice place for my title to sit, so it wasn't just floating around in the sky up above. Didn't really want to do any ink blending like they did in the example. That's why I think I'm going to do the splatter. So let me see if I can spell today. Move-In Day. Cute story. Like I said, you know, this was kind of a dual milestone for us. You know, my husband and I becoming kind of empty nesters for the most part. You know, they never leave. They keep coming back. But somewhat empty nesters. And obviously, we weren't too heartbroken. You know, some people are just so sad when their kids go off to college. Nope, husband and I, 4 days later, hopped on a plane, went to Europe for 2 weeks for a wedding. And then we had my daughter, who is older than, you know, my oldest child. She was on Blake duty, make sure if in case there was any issues, she was there to, you know, run interference for us. But she was only there about another 3 or 4 days because she met us in Europe as well. So didn't win any Parent of the Year award that year, but Blake survived and everything went well. So this is basically what my layout is going to look like. Pictures I print with a mat around them. I use an Epson PM400 and I use an app on my phone so that I can resize them. And I'm really happy how they come out that way. I don't have as much weight by having to mat the photo. It's more paper. Another reason why I ink my paper, it's another layer or another layer of visual interest, but it adds no weight whatsoever. I'm going to clear this all out. I'm going to bring in some paint that I'm going to splatter with, and I'll show you real quickly how I do that. Let's clear this out and I will be right back. So I've mixed up some black acrylic paint, and I just added, a little bit of, water from a spray bottle. And I'm just going to ink up my paintbrush here. This is just a little fan brush, and I'm just going to give it some taps. I'm going to give it a little practice here. Sorry if there's a lot of glare, but I didn't want to ruin my mats at all. So, okay, I think this is actually a little bit too thick, so let's thin that out just a little bit more. Let's see if I can get that to splatter just a little bit better. Okay, we're going to go for it. I'm going to lightly tap. Worst case, it's white paper. I can either turn it over and do the other side or just grab some more. So just basically going to be doing about a 4-inch strip on the top and then a 4-inch strip along the bottom. So I'll flip this over. Flip that over. I'll flip over my paper once I get the top part done. I'm liking the rubber part is actually a little bit better for the splats to come out. So let's bring a little bit more back in here. And I think that's going to just soften up that very white paper that I have a hard time with. So I'm going to just flip this around real quick. This will take a little bit of time to dry, but it works really well. You can also do a re-inker. If you have like a re-inker for black, that would work as well. I do not have one, so that is why I'm choosing to do it with the acrylic paint. So, and acrylic paint is cheap to buy. A couple bucks and you get a tube, and I literally use like a dime amount. So the less that you have on there, the smaller your splats. So if you want some bigger ones, you're gonna have to see how those are much larger. I think that's looking pretty good. So let me clear out this, clean that up. I'm going to let this all dry, and even kind of where it's smeared a little, I think it's going to be fine. If I end up not liking it, like I said, flip it over, do the other side, bring in some new white. It's only paper. So like I said, let me clean this up and I'll be right back, and then we can start assembling our layout. My splatters have all dried, and in all honesty, they did take quite a while to dry, so I let them lay overnight. So I'm actually on to the next day. But I did adhere down all my papers and most of my pictures. Let me just bring in the layout so you can see my splatters a little bit better. It's a little hard to see so far away, but I think they came out pretty cute. I'm really happy with the way it softens up that really stark white background. And then let me show you how I added that one additional photo and my journaling actually. So I have adhered down my journaling here, and I'm going to take my two 4x6s, and I'm going to take one. So if I were to turn them like this, I want to turn the one that's going to go underneath upside down, because I'm going to slip it into what is called a flip flap. This is a great way to add not only additional pictures, like I said, you can add extra journaling. I've used them on multiple ones on a single layout. So the 4x6s that Stampin' Up! Offers come where you can flip them up this way. They also flip to the side. Stampin' Up! Also offers a 3x4s and 4x4s as well. So what you're going to do, this has a little piece of adhesive here. You want to make sure that the opening is to the back side. You're going to pull up your adhesive. This is super duper sticky. You do not want to lay it down until you're absolutely ready, because you will not be able to lift it back up. I'm going to lay it down and then just burnish it. So once I'm ready, I will adhere it. I will cut an opening in my page protector once it goes into its forever album, and then I will feed it through, and that way when you flip it up, you can see the additional picture and you'll be able to read all of my journaling here. My title is pretty simple, Move-In Day. This is the alphabet a la mode. And then let me bring in my embellishments. We're going to have a larger one here and then two smaller ones here. So I'm going to be copying the tags that they were using in the example layout. So they have tags here. I'm going to add just that one additional extra one here. So I just used the same paper that I used with the layout. And let's lift that up a little bit. So I'm going to be sticking two of them over here. And then I've got this cute little director's chair. Put my son's name on it. That is going to go here. I think I'm going to slide these down just a little bit. That way I have a little extra room. I'm going to slide in a couple of film strips as well, I think. Place that there. Liking that. Let me just bring in a little bit of adhesive. And let's get those ones tacked down really quick. I want the top one to be just slightly longer than the bottom one. Excuse me. That one slid in there. And we're going wacky here. Slide that in a little bit there, a little bit further back. So we have a little bit of dimension there. And then I'm just going to still use my same adhesive just to be able to tack this little guy down as well. Do it here off camera real quick so I don't get it onto my layout. And we're going to place that. I'm going to place it on the bottom of the tag so it has a place to rest. And before I push it down too much, I'm going to decide where I'm going to stick my film strips. I might cut those down a little bit. They're pretty big. Let me slice them down. Lose one of those frames. We're not going to need that much. And then we'll trim the other one down about the same amount and slip those there behind. These I might adhere down with a little bit of glue, only because they're so very tiny. Get this lifted up. And I'm thinking something like that. So they might actually even hold down with the adhesive that is behind my tag. So that actually makes it a little easier. I'll come back in with a bit of liquid glue. Let me grab a bit. This is just the Barely Art glue. Squeeze a little out here, and then we can just put a couple little spots here and there, just tapping them on the back. And I'm going to hold that down, and then a couple here. This doesn't take much to hold these down. And even though it does dry clear, I do try to clean up anything that squishes out because it will be a little bit reflective. And I don't personally care for that. So that will be one of our embellishment clusters. And then here, I'm going to be duplicating the tags as well, except we're going to be using 3. Bring in my little bit of adhesive here. And thinking I want to do the red one first. So let's start with that. Since we have the same paper right there, I'm going to make them pretty long because my embellishment with the camera and everything is a pretty big embellishment. And then this one here, I'm just slipping them underneath. I didn't leave myself too much room, unfortunately, but I did trim down the tag so I could just easily slip them there underneath. And then I'm going to also add this little black one. And then we have the camera along with, bringing a tool here. This is just my Cricut spatula. Just try to get under there just a little bit, just to lift it up. And that way we can get that in and straighten that out. There we go. I did trim them down a little bit, that way I knew I'd have enough. I wouldn't need too much space to have to slide those in there. I've got my camera and a couple more film strips. I'm going to duplicate those in all of my embellishment clusters. And then I have those words that I printed off of my computer. The lights, camera, action. I'm not going to push this down too hard. I'm just going to lay it here so I can figure out where I want to cut my film strips, because I know they're a little too long as well, most likely. And that way, well, maybe that'll be okay. They can go into the grass of the picture above. And I'm going to just kind of stick it here somewhat on an angle. So I think just like that. And the camera itself, like I said, will hold down the film strips, so we don't even have to use any glue on that. So I'm going to go lights, action, camera. I think that's kind of what they used to say. I'm not sure. They probably don't say that anymore. Showing my age. But let me get those things, those three, some adhesive on there. And I'm just going to have those coming out of the front of the camera here. So we're going to start with lights. Then we're going to add camera. I want to be able to see all the words, and action. I think I like that way that looks. So let's get that one down just a bit and even those out. So I think that looks very clear. And I'm going to have one more cluster up here. This again is going to be 3 tags. I did trim them off. I'm going to be putting my tags at an angle. I did not leave, again, myself enough room. I put too much, I put the adhesive down to hold the strip down, and it's a little hard to stick my embellishments underneath now. So I just ended up trimming them down to where I thought that they were a good length. And again, I put these ones at an angle, and this is why I cut them at an angle. You can see I put a little mark when I had decided where I wanted them to be. That way I knew where to cut them. So let's add this one here. I did lift it up just a tiny bit again with my spatula. I want to hide that mark I made so we don't see that. And this one is also, but this one I'm going to bring in. I want to bring in from the back, so let's see if we can get that in there. Like the red one on top. Press those all down. We have a couple of film strips. See if we can lift that just a little and stick those underneath. I think that would be good coming out here on this side. Let's snip these down a little bit as well, like we did for down here below. I don't think they need to be quite that long. And then we'll tuck those ones in and add our old school camera. I know those kind of things aren't used anymore. I think my son was saying they videotaped, with DSLRs. I mean, it's like, wow, things have definitely changed. So let's add a little bit of glue here just to try to stick this down. It's going very random because it's not going to take much. Paper's not heavy, so it won't need much to hold it down. Get these little guys down. Hold them for a second. I'm going to just, like I said, wipe up whatever glue I see so that I don't see the glare. Hope I can get my head in the shot there, sorry. And then we have this cute little camera that, again, I printed all of these icons off of by Cricut. I do have Cricut Access. I'm not sure if these are exclusive to that, or you know, you could always just purchase individual designs. So let's stick this one right about here. Let's see, we want it here. I think I like it right about here. Put it straight on, I think, like that. And then just this one more sentiment strip that says it's a wrap. And that will go right there. So all I have left to do is to adhere down my title. I like the positioning. I'm just going to use some of this Sparely art glue. I move it into a smaller bottle, just works better for me. I'm going to glue it down off camera. I don't think you want to watch me do it. It does take a little bit of time, so I will be right back. I have adhered all my letters down. I did save this final one just to show you real quick how I do it. I use a pair of reverse tweezers. These happen to be from Cricut. I have another pair. These are from Hero Arts, and they just basically work the same way. So you squeeze them to open them, and then when you let go, they hold tight. So it's great for holding small things that you want to position. So I'm going to open them up, grab my letter, just bring in a little bit of glue, and I'm just going to put really tiny dots of glue on it. Let's get those all the way down. I think most important is get the top, the bottom, you know, the main places that need to be held. I'm going to lay that one down, get it lined up, and then you squeeze to release. Oh, I'm going to move over just a hair, like that. Oh, this one's going to challenge me. Press it down, and then I bring in just a Stampin' block, one of the acrylic blocks, and then I just lay that there, let it sit for less than a minute, and it will be adhered down. I ended up, this didn't stick down quite so well, and then I thought, well, maybe I want to pop it up. So I ended up bringing in some of these Stampin' Dimensionals. They are just foam squares. They come in white as well as black. I'm going to be using the black since the embellishment is black, and they're just little sticky two-sided foam squares. So it's just going to give it a little bit of lift. So let's peel off our backing papers real quick, and we will then reposition this down, and then it just gives it a little more dimension. I think scrapbooking, you know, when you're creating, there's a lot of dimension that comes into play. So let's get those little sentiments lined up, and then it you know, creates a little shadow, so you just get this depth. Did not adhere this one down yet. I wanted to show you how I was going to do my flip flap. So we're going to come in here and hopefully put them in backwards. Let's flip this around real quick. Oh no, that is correct because it's going to go. I'm so sorry. Squeeze that back down. Important when you put these in that these are in all the way, because if you don't put them in all the way and then you realize afterwards and it's adhered down, it is adhered down to stay. So I'm sorry, here we go. I'm going to remove this backing piece, and I'm going to fold this over. I'm going to center it. I'm going to try to get it lined up with this photo here on the left, because they are all kind of lined up in a row, and then place it down, and then we're just going to press, you know, give it a really, really good press. I'm just going to bring in, this is just, I don't know, this is actually a positioner I have. It's an old Creative Memories one, and I'm just going to use it to give it a really good press down so that the adhesive sticks really well. Flip it over, and there you have it. You've got 2 pictures and all of your journaling hidden underneath. So let me bring this in a little closer. We can remove that because that is adhered down now. And let's get a look at some of these embellishments here. I did a little megaphone, our title with the alphabet a la mode. Here we have the video camera with all our little sentiments. I'm a huge fan of this little camera here. I thought that actually came out really cute. I ended up backing it with a piece of white, so it looks like it has it looks like it's solid, right? And then we have our little director's chair. I have one last thing I'd like to add to this, and those are these neutral matte dots. They come in different varying colors. They are part of the Botanical Textures suite. There's another paper pack that is all wood tones, almost like woven mats and what have you. So that's why the browns and the tans are coming into play. But I thought we would bring in just a couple of these little black ones. One, I need the little pick tool because I don't have a good way to adhere, take these off and adhere them. But I'm just going to put them over the holes where of the tags where you can see that there's a hole, so that there is not a naked hole. I'm going to try to slide one here. Oops, they always stick. I'm going to have to buy the pickup tool. There's a pickup tool that's Stampin Up sells that picks them up and applies them a lot better than my fingernails. So I'm going to hide all our holes. I think that's going to be the majority of our dots here. In fact, I think I'm going to remove one of these ones from this black one. I think I'm going to take the smaller one and put it in there. And let's get a little one then to cover up the whole of the smaller tags. These two black ones. Okay, and then just one more here on this last tag. So there you have my milestone layout. Hope you enjoyed it. Everything I used will be listed in the description box below. If you liked my video, I would really appreciate a like. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I will see you again next week. Have a good one. Bye.